Wife said from now on you're the wife. I never thought my life would take such a drastic turn. 1 minute, I was an average man, going to work, paying bills, spending my evenings with my wife Emma. The next, I was standing in front of a mirror, staring at my own reflection, except the person looking back at me wasn't the man I once was. But let's go back to where it all started. It was a regular evening. The kind where nothing extraordinary was supposed to happen. The kind where I could come home from work, throw off my shoes, and relax on the couch, lost in mindless television. Outside, the city lights flickered in the distance, cars honked, and life moved at its usual pace. Inside, the apartment was warm and inviting, just the way Emma liked it. The scent of vanilla candles filled the air, and soft jazz played from the speakers. Emma was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she poured 2 glasses of wine. I could hear the faint clinking of ice, the sound of her bare feet padding across the hardwood floor. I didn't think much of it at first. But looking back, I should have noticed the way she was watching me. The way she lingered, her fingers drumming against the glass. She had that look on her face, the one she got when she had something on her mind. Something big. I reached for the remote, flipping through channels without much interest. The day had been long, and all I wanted was a quiet evening. But then Emma spoke. Ryan. Her voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. A quiet intensity. I turned my head. Yeah. She walked over and sat beside me, tucking her legs beneath her. Her hazel eyes locked onto mine, serious yet unreadable. I've been thinking, she said. That alone was enough to make my stomach twist. I set the remote down. About what? She hesitated for a second, as if choosing her words carefully. About our marriage. My heart skipped a beat. What about it? Emma leaned forward slightly, resting her elbows on her knees. You trust me, right? Of course. Then I want you to do something for me. I let out a small, nervous chuckle. That sounds ominous. She smirked, but there was no playfulness in her eyes. It's nothing bad, but it's important. A strange tension filled the air. I swallowed hard. Okay, what is it? Emma reached for her bag, which was resting on the armrest. She pulled out something folded, something silky. At first, I thought it was just one of her dresses. But as she unfolded it, my breath caught in my throat. A nightgown. Not just any nightgown. A delicate, silky pink one, with lace trim and thin spaghetti straps. It was soft, feminine, unmistakably designed for a woman. I frowned. Emma, what is this? She placed it in my lap, her gaze never leaving mine. I want you to put it on. For a second, I laughed, assuming it was some kind of joke. But when I looked up at her, she wasn't laughing. She was serious. Wait, you're not kidding. She shook her head. Not at all. I stared at the nightgown, my hands trembling slightly. Emma, this is... I don't understand. You don't need to, she said. Just trust me. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Was this a prank? A test? Some kind of game? Or was she trying to make a point? But the way she looked at me, calm, confident, expectant, made it clear she wasn't going to back down. I don't know about this, I muttered. She leaned in closer, her voice softer now. Ryan, we've been together for years. I know you better than you know yourself, and I know this isn't as foreign to you as you're pretending it is. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? She reached out, her fingers grazing my hand. I've seen the way you look at my clothes. The way your fingers brush against my dresses when you think I'm not looking. The way you hesitate when I ask you to hand me my lipstick. A chill ran down my spine. She knew. She had always known. Emma, She put a finger to my lips. Sure. Just try it. If you hate it, we never have to talk about it again. My heart pounded against my ribs. Every logical thought screamed at me to refuse. To push the nightgown away, laugh it off, pretend this never happened. But instead, I found myself standing up, gripping the fabric in my hands. Emma smiled knowingly. Good. The bedroom is all yours. I walked toward the room, my legs shaky, my breath uneven. The door closed behind me with a soft click, leaving me alone with my reflection in the mirror. I unfolded the nightgown, feeling the smooth, silky texture beneath my fingers. I hesitated for what felt like an eternity. Then, taking a deep breath, I pulled my shirt over my head, unbuttoned my jeans, and let them fall to the floor. My heart pounded louder. I stepped into the nightgown, pulling it up over my body. The fabric slid against my skin, cool and soft. The hemline fell just above my knees. I stared at my reflection, barely recognizing myself. A strange, unexpected feeling settled in my chest. It wasn't just embarrassment, there was something else. Something deeper. Excitement. It felt right. Then, a voice came from behind the door. "Are you ready?" Emma asked. I turned toward the door, my throat dry. I don't know. The doorknob turned. And in that moment, my life changed forever. The door creaked open slowly. Emma stood in the doorway, her eyes sweeping over me from head to toe. I wanted to shrink away, to hide, to pretend this wasn't happening. But I couldn't. My feet were frozen to the floor, my breath caught in my throat. The silence between us was unbearable. Then she smiled. It wasn't a mocking smile. It wasn't even a surprised one. It was knowing. "I knew it," she murmured, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. My heart pounded as I turned toward the mirror, desperate to avoid her gaze. I looked ridiculous, didn't I? A grown man standing in a pink nightgown, his shoulders stiff with embarrassment. She moved closer, her fingers reaching for the hem of the nightgown. Gently, she smoothed out the fabric. "How does it feel?" she asked, her voice unreadable. I swallowed hard. "Weird," I admitted. She tilted her head. "Weird bad or weird good?" I couldn't answer that. I wasn't even sure myself. Emma took my hand and led me toward the bed. She sat down, pulling me to stand in front of her. "I want to try something," she said softly. I stiffened. "What kind of something?" She reached for her bedside drawer, opening it with a quiet click. My stomach twisted as she pulled out a small, black case and unzipped it. Inside, I saw a set of makeup brushes, a compact mirror, and a few tubes of lipstick. I took a step back. "Emma, I don't think." She held up a hand. "Relax. Just trust me." Trust. That word again. I should have said no. I should have taken the nightgown off and walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I found myself sitting down on the edge of the bed as she leaned in, a soft, pink lipstick in her hand. "This will bring out your lips," she murmured, twisting the tube. My lips. I had never thought about my lips before. But as she leaned in, brushing the color against them with delicate precision, I felt something stir inside me. A shiver ran through my body. She pulled back, tilting her head. That's actually really pretty." I swallowed. "Pretty." She smirked. "Yes, pretty." I turned back to the mirror, and for the first time, I truly looked at myself. The pink nightgown, the soft, painted lips, the way my face seemed different. I looked. No, I couldn't think it. Emma placed a hand on my knee. "What are you feeling right now?" I shook my head. "I don't know." She studied me for a moment. "Do you want to stop?" I opened my mouth to say yes, to end this before it went too far. But the word never came. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Keep going." Emma's eyes sparkled. "I was hoping you'd say that." She reached for another item from her makeup kit, a soft powder, which she dusted over my skin. Then came eyeliner, mascara, subtle eyeshadow. With each brush stroke, with each transformation, something inside me shifted. By the time she was done, I barely recognized myself. I wasn't just Ryan anymore. I was someone else. Someone new. I felt lightheaded, as if I had stepped into a dream. Then Emma did something that made my stomach twist into knots. She reached for her closet, rummaging through the hangers until she pulled out a dress. A real one this time. A soft lavender sundress with delicate lace along the neckline. She turned to me, holding it up. "I think this would look perfect on you." I shot up from the bed. "Emma, this is crazy." The nightgown was one thing, but a dress. She stepped closer. "Why not?" "Because," I ran a hand through my hair. "Because I'm a man." Emma just smiled. "Are you?" Her question sent a chill through me. I wanted to argue. To tell her that, yes, of course, I was a man. That this was just a weird experiment. That none of this meant anything. But the words felt empty. She placed the dress in my hands. "You don't have to wear it if you don't want to." I stared down at the fabric. It was soft. Feminine. My fingers curled around it, gripping it tightly. I took a shaky breath. And then, I nodded. Emma's smile widened. Good, she whispered. I turned toward the bathroom, the dress pressed against my chest. With each step, my heartbeat grew louder. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. My fingers trembled as I pulled the nightgown over my head, letting it pool at my feet. Then, slowly, carefully, I slipped into the dress. The fabric hugged my body in ways that felt foreign yet exhilarating. I smoothed my hands over the skirt, feeling the weight of it. I turned toward the mirror. And for the first time in my life, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Not Ryan. Someone else. Someone who had been hiding inside me all along. A soft knock came at the door. Emma's voice was gentle. Can I see? I hesitated. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I opened the door. Emma's breath hitched. Her eyes widened as she took me in. Then, she whispered the words that sent shivers down my spine. From now on, you're the wife. Emma's words hung in the air, settling over me like a weight I couldn't lift. From now on, you're the wife. I should have laughed. Should have told her to stop joking. Should have ripped the dress off and walked away. But I didn't do any of that. I just stood there, frozen. The fabric of the dress clung to my skin, delicate yet suffocating. My heart pounded, every beat echoing in my ears. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat had closed up. Emma's gaze never left mine. She was watching me carefully, as if waiting for me to run, waiting for me to protest. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Then, slowly, she reached out and took my hand. Come here, she whispered. She led me back to the vanity, guiding me to sit down in front of the mirror. My reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed, lips slightly parted, face framed by soft makeup that Emma had so carefully applied. I didn't look like Ryan anymore. I didn't even feel like him. Emma stood behind me, her fingers brushing my shoulders. You look beautiful. My stomach twisted. Beautiful. No one had ever called me that before. She reached for her hairbrush, running it through my short brown locks. You know, she murmured. I always wondered what you'd look like with longer hair. My breath caught as she reached into the drawer and pulled out something unexpected. A wig, long, silky and chestnut brown. I shook my head. Emma, this is going too far. She just smiled. Says the man already sitting in a dress. I swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. Before I could protest again, she gently placed the wig over my head, adjusting it with skilled fingers. The weight of it was strange. The way it brushed against my neck, the way the strands framed my face. I reached up, touching the soft curls. Emma stepped back, tilting her head as she studied me. Then she whispered, You're perfect. A lump formed in my throat. I didn't feel perfect. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like I had stepped over a line I could never uncross. Emma bent down, her lips near my ear. How does it feel? I gripped the edges of the vanity, staring at myself in the mirror. I wanted to say it felt wrong, that it was all a mistake, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself whispering, Different. Emma smiled. Good different or bad different? I swallowed. I don't know. She straightened up, crossing her arms. Well, let's find out. I turned to her, confused. Find out how? She smirked. We're going out. I shot up from the chair. What? Emma laughed. Relax, we're just going for a drive. No one will even see you. I shook my head. No, absolutely not. She arched an eyebrow. Why not? Because I can't go outside like this. My voice cracked. She stepped closer, her gaze locking onto mine. Why not? She repeated. I struggled to find an answer. Because I'm a man. Because people will stare. Because I don't know who I am anymore. Emma reached for my hand again. Her touch was soft, but her grip was firm. Just one ride, she said. No one has to know. I hesitated. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I nodded. I sat stiffly in the passenger seat, my hands clenched together in my lap. The dress's fabric felt foreign against my skin, the wig tickling my shoulders with every movement. Emma glanced over at me, a small smile playing on her lips. You're nervous. I exhaled sharply. No kidding. She chuckled. Relax. No one is looking. That was easy for her to say. She wasn't the one sitting in a dress, her face made up to look like someone else. I shifted uncomfortably. Where are we even going? She tapped her fingers on the steering wheel. Nowhere. Just driving. I frowned. Then why did you want to do this? Emma's eyes softened. Because I wanted you to feel it. Feel what? Her gaze flicked toward me. Freedom. I froze. Emma turned back to the road, her voice quieter now. You spend so much time hiding, Ryan. Hiding who you are, what you want. Even from me. I opened my mouth to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. She wasn't wrong. I had always been careful. Always held myself back. Even when I was alone, I had never let myself really think about it. But now, in this moment, I wasn't hiding. I was sitting here, in a dress, wearing makeup, with a wig framing my face. And no one knew. For the first time in my life. I wasn't pretending. Emma reached over, giving my hand a squeeze. You don't have to be scared, she whispered. I swallowed hard. But I was scared. Not of being caught. Not of what people would think. I was scared of how right it felt. The realization hit me like a truck. This wasn't just an experiment. It wasn't just some game. This was me. My head spun as I turned to Emma, my voice barely above a whisper. What if? I like this. Emma's smile was warm. Then you like it. I shook my head. But what does that mean? She squeezed my hand again. It means you're finally being honest with yourself. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes. Honest? I had never been honest before. Not with myself. Not with Emma. But now, there was no going back. I turned to the window, watching as the city lights blurred past. Somewhere deep inside me, something shifted. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The car ride home was silent, but my mind was anything but. I kept glancing at my reflection in the side mirror, the soft makeup, the long hair, the way the streetlights cast shadows over my unfamiliar face. It was like looking at a stranger. And yet, something about it felt right. Emma hadn't said much after our conversation. She just held my hand now and then, her grip warm, reassuring. But I could tell she was watching me, reading my every movement, waiting for me to process everything. I wasn't ready. As soon as we pulled into the driveway, I unbuckled my seatbelt and hurried inside, my heart pounding. I needed space. I needed to breathe. But the moment I stepped into our bedroom, I caught my reflection in the full-length mirror. I stopped dead. The woman staring back at me was someone new. Someone unfamiliar. But she wasn't a stranger. She was me. A shiver ran down my spine. I reached up, running my fingers through the long strands of the wig. I traced the curve of my face, the softness of the makeup Emma had applied. I had spent years pretending I didn't want this. Now, I couldn't deny it anymore. A quiet knock on the door made me jump. Ryan. Emma's voice was gentle. Can I come in? I swallowed hard, staring at my reflection for another second before answering. Yeah. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. She just looked at me. Then she smiled. You're beautiful. My chest tightened. Stop saying that. Her head tilted. Why? Because it's not true. My voice cracked. I'm not supposed to be. I stopped myself before I could finish. Emma stepped closer. Not supposed to be what? I squeezed my eyes shut. This. Silence. Then, Emma's hand touched my cheek. Ryan, she whispered. What are you so afraid of? I let out a shaky breath. Everything. She didn't push. She just let me stand there, fighting with the storm inside my own head. Then, after a long moment, she reached for my hand again. Come sit, she said softly. I let her lead me to the bed, my heart pounding. She sat beside me, turning so we were face to face. I want to ask you something, she said. I nodded, unsure if I even wanted to hear it. Her next words sent a chill down my spine. If I told you that from now on, I want you to live as my wife, would you do it? My breath caught in my throat. I stared at her, my mind racing. What? Emma's expression was unreadable. I'm serious. What if this wasn't just for tonight? What if I told you? I want this to be permanent. The room felt smaller. My pulse thundered in my ears. I tried to laugh. You're joking, right? She didn't blink. What if I'm not? Panic surged through me. Emma. She reached out, placing a finger against my lips. Think about it, she whispered. I froze. Think about it. I didn't want to think about it. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. I wanted this, and that terrified me more than anything. Emma leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. Just say yes. I squeezed my eyes shut. I can't. Her voice softened. Why not? Tears burned in my eyes. Because if I say yes, I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back. Silence. Then, Emma's hands cupped my face, forcing me to look at her. Maybe you were never supposed to go back, she whispered. A sob caught in my throat. I didn't know who I was anymore, but Emma did, and maybe that was enough. I pulled away from Emma's touch, standing up so fast my legs nearly gave out. This is insane, I muttered, pacing back and forth. You're asking me to just become someone else? To live as a woman? Emma finished, her voice calm. I swallowed hard. Yes. She tilted her head. But is that really what scares you? I stopped pacing. What are you talking about? Emma stood up, stepping closer, her voice quiet but firm. I don't think you're afraid of being a woman, Ryan. I think you're afraid that you already want to be one. I recoiled like she had slapped me. That's not true. She just gave me a knowing smile. Then take it off. I blinked. What? Emma gestured to the wig, the dress, the makeup. Take it all off. Wash your face, change back into your clothes, and tell me you never want to do this again. The words hit me like a brick. That should have been easy. I should have run to the bathroom, scrubbed off the makeup, and buried these clothes so deep I never had to see them again. But I didn't move. Emma crossed her arms. That's what I thought. I clenched my fists. You don't understand. Her expression softened. Then make me understand. I turned away, my mind spinning. How could I explain something I didn't even fully understand myself? The way I felt in these clothes, the way the fabric clung to my skin, the way the makeup softened my features. It wasn't just some passing thrill. It was something deeper, something real. And that terrified me. Emma stepped behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. I stiffened, but she didn't let go. Her voice was gentle. Ryan, what if you stop fighting it? A lump formed in my throat. Then I don't know who I am anymore. Emma turned me around, forcing me to meet her gaze. I do. Tears stung my eyes. She brushed a strand of hair from my face, her fingers lingering. You spent so long trying to hide this part of yourself. But I see you. A tear slipped down my cheek. What if I don't like what you see? Emma smiled softly. Then I'll like it enough for both of us. Something inside me broke. I let out a shaky breath, my shoulders slumping. Emma reached for my hands, squeezing them tight. You don't have to decide anything tonight, she whispered. But promise me one thing. I swallowed hard. What? She leaned in, pressing her forehead against mine. Don't run from this. I closed my eyes, my whole body trembling. 4 years, I had been running. Maybe it was time to stop. The weight of Emma's words settled over me like a blanket I couldn't shake off. Don't run from this. I wanted to tell her I wasn't running. That this was just a mistake, a one-time thing that got out of hand. But as I stood there, still wrapped in this dress, still wearing the makeup she had so carefully applied, I couldn't make myself say it. Because it would be a lie. Emma pulled back slightly, studying my face. Her thumbs brushed against my cheeks, wiping away the tears I hadn't even realized were falling. Then she smiled. I have an idea. I frowned. What kind of idea? She let go of my hands and walked over to the closet, rummaging through a few bags I hadn't noticed before. After a moment, she pulled out a long silk nightgown, a pale pink thing that shimmered under the bedroom light. My stomach dropped. She turned back to me, holding it up. Wear this to bed tonight. I took a step back. Emma! No pressure, she interrupted. I just want you to try it. I shook my head. I can't. Her expression didn't change. Why not? I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. Because if I do, it means. The words died in my throat. Emma tilted her head. It means what? I gritted my teeth. It means this isn't just a one-time thing. Silence. Emma took a step closer, still holding the nightgown between us. And would that really be so bad? My breath hitched. I had no answer for her. Emma reached for my hand again, pressing the silk fabric against my palm. It was soft, so soft it sent a shiver down my spine. Just try it, she whispered. I stared at the nightgown, my fingers clenching around the fabric. A war raged inside me. The logical part of my brain screamed at me to stop, to rip off these clothes, scrub my face clean, and pretend none of this had ever happened. But the other part, the part one had spent years trying to silence, was desperate to feel more, to sink into this, to stop pretending. I swallowed hard, my heart hammering in my chest. Then, slowly I nodded. Emma's face lit up. Good! She turned around, giving me privacy as I hesitated one last time. And then, trembling, I started to undress. Underscore 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 underscore. The silk nightgown felt like a second skin. As I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, I barely recognized myself. The makeup was still there, though slightly smudged. My hair, though technically a wig, framed my face perfectly. And the nightgown, it fit like it was made for me. I ran my hands down the fabric, feeling the smoothness, the way it hugged my body in all the right places. It was terrifying, and yet, it felt right. Behind me, Emma climbed into bed, pulling the covers back. When she looked up and saw me standing there, her expression softened. You look perfect. I turned away. Stop saying that. She patted the bed beside her. Come here. I hesitated. Then, before I could change my mind, I walked over and slipped under the covers. Emma curled up beside me, her arm draping over my waist. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was hiding. And that terrified me more than anything. The room was dark except for the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Emma's breathing was slow and steady beside me, her warmth pressed against my back. I should have been exhausted. My body was drained, my mind spinning. And yet I couldn't sleep. Not when I could still feel the silk nightgown clinging to my skin. Not when my heartbeat refused to slow down. Not when I knew that everything had changed. I stared up at the ceiling, my hands gripping the blanket. What now? This wasn't just some playful game anymore. Emma wasn't teasing me. She wasn't just having fun dressing me up. She saw something in me, something I had spent years trying to bury. And the worst part, she might be right. I swallowed hard, turning slightly to glance at Emma. She looked so peaceful, her face relaxed in sleep. How could she be so calm about this? Did she really not see how terrifying this was? Or was she just waiting for me to admit it to myself? I exhaled shakily, my pulse still racing. Maybe I could pretend. Maybe I could wake up tomorrow, rip off this nightgown, and go back to being Ryan. Back to my normal life. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was no going back. And I had no idea what that meant. Underscore 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 underscore. Morning came too fast. I woke to the feeling of Emma shifting beside me. For a brief second, I forgot everything. Then the silky fabric brushed against my skin, and reality slammed into me like a freight train. My eyes flew open. Emma was already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me with a knowing smile. Good morning. I swallowed hard. Morning. She reached out, tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. The movement was so natural, so intimate, that my breath caught in my throat. Sleep well? She asked. I hesitated. I don't know. She chuckled. That's fair. Silence stretched between us. Then Emma's expression turned serious. You don't have to decide anything today, she said gently. But I want you to be honest with yourself. I tensed. Honest about what? She gave me a pointed look. About how this makes you feel. I opened my mouth to argue, to deny it, to tell her she was wrong. But no words came out. Emma just smiled. Then, before I could react, she leaned in and kissed my forehead. You have all the time in the world, she whispered. I barely heard her, because all I could think about was how, for the first time in my life, I didn't want to take off the nightgown.